Thank you very much for joining us today, Oraklet from HÄXKAPELL. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm glad to be doing this interview, even though my voice is a little sore and yeah, like I said to you earlier, fever and migraine. But that's stuff you have to deal with sometimes when you have kids, especially.
Yes, life is very good at throwing us all curveballs. And yeah, just guess you gotta roll with the punches and navigate your way around them as best you can. So thank you very much for joining us today. Now, the reason
Thank you for having
we're
me.
absolute pleasure. And the reason we're catching up today is because you've recently released a new album titled Om Jordens Blod och Urgravens Grepp, which I also believe, if my translator app hasn't stitched me up, translates to about the blood of the earth and the grip of the grave.
That is correct. Yes.
So that's score one for the translator app. So
Yeah.
with such a gnarly and brutal, bleak, but also somewhat beautiful title, how does that play into the album? How have you composed around that?
The title.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, there's a theme on the album which is earth and soil. And there's a sub theme, which is the eternal cycle of life and death through the earth. And blood seeping through the earth. When we die, we go back to the earth. Our blood seeps into the earth and transforms into something else. And then we are reborn in new, strange forms. And that is the theme of the album. And I like to think in conceptual ways, in concept albums. The first album I made was had the theme of fire, and this one is earth. It just happened to be these two classic elements. So we'll see if I know what the next one is, but maybe we'll talk about that the next time. But yeah, the earth is highly present in the music as well. If you think about how the earth moves, it moves very slowly, and it takes its time evolving and transforming itself into something else. And that's also present in the music. Of course, it's not as slow as the earth moving, but still the same riff or guitar part or melody can go on for several minutes. And while something else is transforming, like the drum beat is transforming, maybe some instrument comes in and comes out. There are vocals, instrumental, etc. So there's this symbolical connection is highly present, at least for me, in the music.
I really noticed listening through the album. It's definitely within the realms of black metal. That is unmistakable. But yeah, the variety of different elements in the form of other instruments and, as you said, sort of the compositional changes that you have throughout the record, or even within the span of a single song, is a lot more than I'm generally used to hearing from the sort of more straightforward black metal releases.
Yeah, I've always tried to shy away from boundaries and try to. I've always tried to be as free as possible when I create music, and it feels more like the music is taking me on a journey than me forcing it into something it isn't or could be. So it's I think it's probably has to do with me being open about this and not trying to like pigeonhole it into something. And also, I've always listened to almost all kinds of music, and that probably plays in as well. And since dynamics and contrasts are, I love music that has those. That isn't just one thing. That can be nice as well for some periods. Like I love Ildian, for example. That's very raw black metal, but No, it just feels like HÄXKAPELL is an entity that needs grander schemes.
Well, it certainly has them going, yeah, all the way through the album. And I also really enjoyed the more sort of folky elements that you brought into it, the more sort of traditional Netherlandian singing, I suppose you might say. I recently had the pleasure of catching Wardruna and, yeah, being just completely enveloped in Ina's vocal approach. So I was really vibing on those parts when they came in to the part of the album. In fact, I've had a bit of a black metal resurgence fairly recently as well, and been going back and revisiting like a lot of the black metal albums that I listened to in my youth, as well as then going and checking out the expanded catalog. So this album of yours as well has come to me at a pretty poignant black metal part of my life actually. And not only I said is it unmistakably in there sits well, but I said it just seems to offer a lot more, at least into most of the releases that I've been listening to. It's been really awesome.
Yes, thank you. It's nice to hear. And of course, Einar in Vardruna, he started in black metal himself as well. So there are probably lots of uh, parallel things between that kind of music and black metal. Maybe the top one being the atmosphere. That is, well, everyone probably tries to make it as immersive as possible. And I could, if you haven't heard Fundum from Nordvis, the same label as me, I highly recommend you to check it out because it's roughly in the same ballpark as Vardruna, but I think Fundum is much better. So yeah, you can check it out. I'm singing on the latest album as well, so
Oh, that always helped with the opinion, won't it?
of course, yeah.
But no, that sounds awesome. I'll definitely follow that out. And been having this chat with a lot of people recently about music in the modern age and the accessibility of it with streaming services. Where again, sort of going back to the black metal albums that I listened to as a teenager, like I probably had like a dozen or so. Then going back and listening to them now, and then you're like, oh, but I'll also check out this album from them and this album, and that's linked me to this artist. And it makes, yeah, the accessible side of it and the ability to absorb and soak up so much more is awesome. The downside is that it then becomes with most albums a kind of a one and done. You've listened to it, and then now there's so much other choice and variety to move on to that you don't quite get to sink in and absorb an album as much as you would have when you only had one thing to listen to per month, say.
Yeah, for sure. It's the listening habits have changed, and like you said, the availability is great. That you can just by one click you can find almost anything on the internet. I've tried to do some things myself just to get back to more of the old way of listening. One of which is that if I listen to an album, I try to spin it for several times, not just once, but 3 or 4 times at least, so that I really get the feel of it. And when I listen to it again, now it's this, I can recognize some parts, because that you get a whole another, you get familiarized with the music on a whole another level when listening like that. And also, of course, if you have physical CDs or vinyls, listen to those, man.
No, definitely. Yeah, that's a kind of a topical thing as well. A friend of mine is likewise trying to break this very same habit, and he has bought. I mean, it's still, I guess, kind of modern, but he's bought an iPod and modded it with a bigger hard drive inside of it. And we were just last night actually going through my CD collection to rip all these things out so that he can put them onto the iPod so that he has a lot of variety, but also sort of more contained, so that he just has dedicated things that he's going to be listening to as a way to break that cycle as well, which is pretty cool. And might have to do the same thing. And it was really cool going through all my CDs because I probably hadn't looked through them for like maybe even as far as 2 decades. Some of those records haven't even pulled out and looked at. So it was like rediscovering a whole bunch of treasures.
Hmm. Yeah, that has to feel nice.
Yeah, like 'cause, again, these are records that I spent serious time with. It's like revisiting old friends. It was really, really nice. And holding the physical thing, yeah, there's a lot for that. But I know I've sidetracked a couple of times from where I was originally leading that to, so I'll try and circle back to it. Was yeah, then moving on to Eld Hymne, the first album, the one that you said was based on fire.
Yes.
And because yeah, this Jordens, just to shorten it down, has been my first introduction to your music. Then going on and listening to Eld Hymne after that, it was kind of odd because it seemed like there was a progression from this album to that one, and it was probably the illusion because of me listening to them in that order. And I saw sort of themes from Jordan sort of maybe become a bit more prevalent, different elements adding in. But then I listened to Jordan's again, and then I felt that the other way around. So it's kind of like the two albums kind of circle around each other a little bit in terms of yeah theme and instrumentation, or at least again that was my perception of it.
No, that's really interesting to hear. Since, well, of course, my perception of the albums is chronological. It's interesting to hear from your perspective. And yeah, I don't know why that is, but they certainly they are both Hexkapelle albums, so they have similarities, of course, and but they also have things that are not common with each other. Like, for example, this slowly transforming concept, which is prevalent on this new one. It's the other way around on Eldhymner, because there are
Hmm.
so many parts in the songs. Like on Jordens Blod or Urgravens Grepp, there are maybe 3 or 4 riffs per song, but on Eldhymner you can have 8 or 9. So, and they are constantly changing between each other because fire is, well, of course, it burns out quicker and it's ever changing. So it's I'm always trying to infuse this symbolical quality into the music and the arrangements. So the lyrics are always what push the music into some in some direction, not the other way around.
Well, I guess it's really the way you're reflecting and explaining it. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I always love after I've spoken to someone about how they've created the music and the thoughts that they had around it, going back and listening to it again with that insight like you've given me now. I think it's going to be another very different listen when I yeah check those albums out again. It's going to be wicked. Now, also with the advantages of modern technology and everything at your fingertips, I had a bit of a look around to see if I could find any live footage of you performing, and wasn't able to track any down. Is
There is no, there haven't been any Hexkapelle shows, and not for the lack of trying,
How did
but
explain it then?
yeah, no, there's nothing. I've done many gigs with other bands and outfits, but not with Hexkapelle, and it's just it the logistical problems that arose just were too big, or have thus far been too big, because I live quite remotely in Haparanda in northern Sweden, and Johan, the drummer, he lives in Skellefteå. That's was like 3.5 hours by car, and then I need more people for the lineup, of course, and I would like to have my wife is the violinist and who plays the violin and the viola on the Hexkapelle albums, and I would like to have her with me on the gigs, but who's gonna stay home with the kids? So there's lots of small irritating problems that sooner or later we'll figure out and we'll make some, because there have been plans for making gigs, select gigs. I don't have the time to make like long tours or stuff.
Yeah, well, you might just have to teach the kids how to play the instruments, and that might solve two problems in one.
Yeah, they're 9 and 6, so it'll take some years still, I think.
Knowing, yeah, that essentially that Hacks Capel was, yeah, a one-man project was why I was also very keen to try and find some live footage because I'd be very interested to see how, yeah, you would pull that off in a live settings. And I guess it's something that I'm going to have to be patient to wait and see.
Yeah, well, it definitely is not going to be me alone with some backing tracks. I hate backing tracks live. I have never used them myself, and I will try to not use them ever. I really like the spontaneous character of a live gig where every concert is slightly different from the other. Even if you have the same set list, the same lineup in the band, you still have different energies depending on the venue you're playing and the audience that's there. And I like for there to be spontaneity, however it's pronounced. And
Nailed it.
yeah, thank you. Also, I don't like click tracks live. I really want it to be as organic as possible. So you won't see this one-man band as a one-man band on stage. It'll be a full lineup.
Yeah, wicked. And yeah, that's what quintessentially makes live music, so special. Like you said, all those sort of unique moments that only happen in the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I was also tipped off that, and you've already displayed a bit of this in the conversation so far with your knowledge, that you're also known as being a bit of a black metal historian.
Oh, all right.
It's the first
Where did
time
you
you've
get that
heard
impression? Yeah.
it. You can blame your PR guy.
No, all right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been into black metal for what's it now, 30 years. So of course that you pick up some things along the way. But yeah, I don't know. Historian sounds a bit, I don't know, almost uh, what's it called? Pretentious. So
Too
no,
academic.
yeah, well, there's no problem with academia, I think, but it feels like no, this is just, I know what I know, and I don't like to put any label on it. But one thing that I could comment on is that you mentioned in the beginning that HÄXKAPELL is well in the realm of black metal, and partly yes, it is. And for me, black metal is satanic music exclusively, and there are some facets of that in HÄXKAPELL. Like for example, the first song, Satans rötter, the roots of Satan, which are well, growing in the earth and seeping, drinking the blood of those dying, and etc. There's so much else in the music as well. And you mentioned folk, and that is through the violin, through the acoustic guitars, some of the clean vocals and melodies that are harken to traditional folk music from Scandinavia and Finland. I'm a Finn myself, even though I've lived in Sweden all my life. So it's a black metal with an asterisk.
Yeah, gotta keep yourself some caveats.
Yeah, well, I'm a purist, so black metal is black metal, and this is not purely that.
Yeah, and that was yeah going to then be my lead on from the historian side of things, more so the future of black metal. Where do you see the sound moving in the next decade plus?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. There's probably always going to be traditionalists who, sound-wise and like musically, keep it the same as it's always been. Like if you think about the second wave black metal from Norway, Dark Throne, Burzum, Mayhem, etc. There are bands that display those same kinds of aesthetics today, and will probably continue to do so. And new bands will come, will do the same. And but what new things? I really don't know. There was in the late 90s, everything went Matrix, with all the fast sunglasses and industrial noises and stuff. And I was not a big fan of that. There were some good band like Mysticum I really like that had that kind of stuff. But and there's been I don't know. There's just during the last 5 years or so, there's come lots of you know black metal that really isn't black metal in my opinion, where the lyrics don't have anything to do with Satanism, where it's and I'm not knocking the music. I'm just saying this is not black metal.
Hmm.
Like if you have Christian lyrics or Hinduistic lyrics or you have Native American lyrics or something. That's really interesting and I don't know if it's good always, but I think that's probably one way that it'll keep evolving. Because there's like folk music, for example, some people speak about world music, and that's essentially folk music from all over the globe. And those there's like world music black metal, which someone would probably say that HÄXKAPELL is one of those bands, since I have folky instruments, even though in my opinion, it's not black metal. But yeah, what I don't like is when people try to make an extreme metal genre into um, something that is too nice. Uh, Black metal that is inclusive isn't black metal, because Satan is not inclusive, and that's I just can't. I just can't. When I see these like politically tinged black metal bands, for example, it's I'm a pretty progressive, opinionated in my own political views, but man, that's got nothing to do with black metal. Don't mix those. Is my opinion.
Yep. So if it's got to keep its edge to keep it quintessentially black metal.
Yeah, it's destructive, dark music where you want everyone and everything to suffer and cease to exist. That's black metal.
Yep. Sounds deliciously nihilistic.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Well, awesome, Oraklet. Thank you so much for joining us today. I very much hope that, yeah, the future of black metal also continues to include HÄXKAPELL, especially, yeah, possibility of seeing it come to life on stage would be absolutely amazing. But for now, yeah, we've got the records to enjoy, and I will continue to enjoy them myself.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the interview. It was a pleasure.